They don't hand you the rules, but they expect you to live by them. That's the weight of the unspoken contract. It's not written down, not announced, not agreed upon. But the moment you step into their space, they've already decided what you owe them. And the trick is, you don't even realize you've been signed up. You just start noticing how heavy your spirit feels, how your smile doesn't come as easily, how your choices begin to shrink until you're not sure if you're choosing for yourself anymore or just choosing to keep the peace. It's subtle. It doesn't shout at you. It whispers. At first, it feels like you're just trying to love well, trying to keep harmony, trying to make it work. But somewhere between all that effort, you begin to feel like you're in a courtroom you never agreed to enter, being judged by a law that was never spoken, held to a standard that was never explained. You wake up one day and realize you've been following expectations that were never yours to begin with. The unspoken contract tells you things like, be available, but don't ask for too much. It tells you, make me look good, but don't expect the same in return. It says, sacrifice your needs, but don't you dare call me out when I sacrifice nothing. And the saddest part is you start internalizing it. You begin rewriting yourself to fit a mold that was never meant to hold you. You bend, you twist, you dim, and before long, the person you once recognized in the mirror looks like a stranger wearing your face. And here's the dangerous part. The unspoken contract doesn't just trap you, it trains you. It makes you question yourself. Am I asking for too much? Am I being selfish? Am I overreacting? That's the power of silence. It convinces you that their rules are reality and your voice is rebellion. You stop trusting your instincts. And you start second guessing the very things you know in your spirit are true. But here's what I need you to hear. A contract without consent is not binding. Just because someone expects it doesn't mean you owe it. Just because they assume it doesn't mean you're required to deliver. Your peace is not a bargaining chip. Your worth is not collateral. Your life is not a receipt to be handed over in exchange for somebody else's comfort. There is something holy about breaking unspoken contracts. It feels messy at first because you've been taught to believe silence is safety. You've been trained to think going along is easier than speaking up. But when you decide that your voice matters, when you declare that your boundaries are not negotiable, when you start showing up as your full self, those invisible rules start to shatter. And yes, it may rattle the ones who wrote them. But freedom has always made oppressors uncomfortable. Let me tell you something. People who truly love you will never be threatened by your freedom. They will not be shaken by your boundaries. They will not demand a contract you didn't sign. They will celebrate your yes and respect your no. But those who benefit from the unspoken contract will call you difficult, rebellious, ungrateful, disloyal. And that's when you'll know you've started to break their grip. Because the truth is, you were never meant to be bound by rules you didn't choose. You don't owe anyone your silence just to make them feel secure. You don't owe anyone your exhaustion just to keep them comfortable. You don't owe anyone your shrinking just so they can feel tall. Tear up the contract. It was never yours to honor in the first place. The only agreement you were ever called to live by is the one where you honor the life inside you, where you love without losing yourself, where you give without emptying your soul, where you show up in truth, not performance. And once you step into that, you'll realize you never needed their contract at all. You just needed your courage. Because contracts without your yes don't hold you. They only hold illusions. And illusions break the moment you decide to see clearly. So today, choose clarity, choose courage, choose you. Perfection is the expectation that never speaks its name. But you feel it pressing against your chest every time you try to breathe. It's not enough to be good, not enough to be faithful, not enough to be consistent. You've got to be flawless. You've got to anticipate every need. Fix every mistake before it even happens and hold yourself together so tightly that not a single crack shows. And the irony is the same people who demand perfection from you are the very ones who live nowhere near it themselves. They hand you a standard they could never uphold, but still act like you're wrong if you can't carry it. So you find yourself rehearsing every word before you speak it, measuring every action before you take it. Second, guessing even the smallest decisions because you know how quickly imperfection will be punished. You start thinking, if I can just get it right this time, maybe it'll be enough. But the truth is, enough doesn't exist in that system. The bar keeps moving, and every time you stretch to reach it, it shifts just a little higher. That's the exhaustion of living under an expectation that has no finish line. And it's not just about what you do. It becomes about who you are. You learn to perform your life like a stage play, smiling when you want to cry, holding it together when you're breaking inside, saying, I'm fine. When the weight of the world is pressing you into the ground, you train yourself to appear put together because imperfection is treated like a weakness and weakness feels like a crime. But in the process, you lose the space to be human. The secret expectation of perfection is cruel because it doesn't celebrate your effort. It criticizes your humanity. It ignores the long nights you stayed up trying, the tears you wiped in silence, the ways you gave more than anyone even realized. It doesn't see the beauty in your resilience. It only highlights the one thing you missed. And after a while, you start to see yourself through that same lens. You don't just notice the flaws, you start believing the flaws define you. But let me tell you something powerful. Perfection is a prison. It is a chain that will keep you running in circles until your soul is weary. You were never created to be flawless. You were created to be whole. And there's a difference. Wholeness says, I can show up with my cracks and I'm still valuable. Wholeness says, I can make mistakes and it doesn't erase my worth. Wholeness says, I am allowed to be in process. Perfection screams at you to get it right, but wholeness whispers that you already are enough. I know some of you have been living in that silent contract of perfection, always trying, always stretching, always breaking yourself down so that no one else can. But hear me, your imperfection is not your failure. It's your fingerprint. It's the part of you that makes you real, the part of you that keeps you grounded, the part of you that connects you to others. Nobody bonds over perfection. They bond over truth. And the moment you stop performing and start being, you'll discover a freedom that perfection could never offer you. It's not your job to be perfect for someone else's comfort. It's not your calling to carry a standard that nobody else is willing to hold. The expectation of perfection is a mirror that will never reflect you accurately because it wasn't designed to show your truth. It was designed to distort it. And when you realize that, you can finally put it down. You can stop running after a moving bar and start standing firm in the truth that you are worthy. Even with the scars, even with the flaws, even with the mistakes. Because here's the secret they never tell you. The very thing they expect from you is the very thing they cannot sustain themselves. They hide behind their own imperfections while demanding you cover yours. But you don't have to play that game. You don't have to chase a standard that was never real. You don't have to exhaust your soul proving something that was never required of you. You don't need perfection to be worthy. You just need permission to be yourself. And you are the only one who can give it. So today, stop running after flawless and start embracing whole. Silent sacrifices are the kind that nobody applauds, nobody thanks you for, and often nobody even notices. They're the pieces of yourself you hand over quietly because somewhere in the atmosphere it was expected. You don't sign up for it out loud, but you start giving away your rest, your energy, your voice, and even your dreams because it feels easier to let them go than to deal with the weight of the reaction if you hold on. And after a while, giving up becomes second nature. You don't even realize you're shrinking. You just know you're tired. It starts small. You let the comments slide even though it pierced you. You say yes when every part of you wanted to say no. You hold back your truth because you know the room will get too tense if you speak it. And each time you do it, It's like placing one more brick on your back. One brick doesn't feel like much, but after a while, the weight of silent sacrifices bends your spine, steals your joy, and convinces you this is just the way life has to be. And here's the trap. You begin to believe that giving yourself away without recognition is the definition of love. That silence equals strength. That to be valuable, you must be endlessly available. But love is not the depletion of your soul. Strength is not the absence of voice. And availability without boundaries is not connection. It's exploitation. What makes silent sacrifices so dangerous is that they look noble from the outside. People see you holding everything together, always showing up, always giving, always making it work. They may even admire the way you never complain. But they don't see what it costs you. They don't see the nights you lie awake staring at the ceiling, wondering when it will be your turn to be poured into. They don't see the tears that never fall in public because you've trained yourself to cry in the shower where nobody will hear. They don't see the dreams you've packed away in boxes, labeled someday, because someone else's comfort always had to come first. And the hardest part, after a while, you forget that your needs matter too. You start to silence yourself so thoroughly that when someone actually asks you what you want, you don't even know how to answer. Your identity becomes tied to how much you can give, how much you can endure, how much you can carry without collapsing. But deep down, your spirit is whispering, this is not sustainable. You were never meant to live like this. There is nothing holy about erasing yourself for the sake of someone else's comfort. There is nothing righteous about bleeding in silence while pretending to smile. Real love is not fueled by silent suffering. It's sustained by mutual sacrifice, mutual respect, mutual care. And when only one person is doing the sacrificing, it's no longer love. It's a transaction. I need you to hear me. You cannot keep pouring from an empty vessel. You cannot keep setting yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. Every time you give without replenishing, you are robbing yourself of the very life you were called to live. And the tragedy is, the ones who benefit from your silent sacrifices will rarely tell you to stop. They'll keep taking as long as you keep giving, because silence teaches them you'll endure it. But there comes a moment when silence turns into resentment, when sacrifices become too heavy to hide, when your soul refuses to keep playing small. That moment is not weakness, it's awakening. It's your spirit reminding you that your life matters too, that your joy deserves space, that your boundaries deserve honor, that your needs deserve a voice. Choosing to stop the cycle of silent sacrifices doesn't mean you stop loving. It means you start loving yourself too. It doesn't mean you close your heart. It means you refuse to close your eyes to your own worth. And yes, it will feel uncomfortable at first because silence has been your language for so long. But healing begins the moment you let your voice break through. So no more silent sacrifices. No more giving pieces of yourself until nothing is left. No more carrying weight that was never meant for your shoulders. It's time to honor the life inside you. It's time to reclaim your joy. It's time to let your yes mean yes, your no mean no, and your soul finally exhale. Validation is a funny thing. We all need it in some form. We all want to know that what we give matters, that who we are is seen, that the effort we pour out is not invisible. But there are some who treat validation like it's oxygen. And they expect you to be the one holding the tank. It becomes your unspoken job to clap the loudest, to cheer the hardest, to notice every little detail they do right, while your own needs for affirmation remain unmet. And over time, that silent assignment wears you down because you realize the applause is never mutual. It's one-sided and it's endless. You find yourself becoming their audience, not their partner. Every accomplishment requires your standing ovation. Every moment of insecurity demands your reassurance. And even when you're empty, even when your spirit is tired, the expectation is that you keep clapping, keep affirming, keep validating. They draw from your well without ever checking to see if there's water left for you. What makes it so heavy is that at first, you don't notice how much it costs you. Encouragement is a beautiful gift, and you give it freely. You speak life because that's who you are. But after a while, you start to realize that the encouragement doesn't flow both ways. When you succeed, it's dismissed. When you need reassurance, it's ignored. When you long for someone to look you in the eye and say, I see you, what you get instead is silence, or worse, criticism. And that silence begins to echo louder than any applause you've ever given. The secret expectation of endless applause is designed to keep you small, because the more you cheer for them, the less space you have to rise yourself. The more you pour into them, the less energy you have to pour into your own calling. And the truth is, they don't just want your validation. They want your identity tied to it. They want you so wrapped up in affirming them that you forget you need affirmation too. But hear me. Your voice was not created just to echo praise for someone else. Your words were not designed to only fill empty places in another person while leaving you hollow. You are not just an audience member in somebody else's story. You are the main character in your own. And here's the thing. When you live under the weight of endless applause, you start losing your sound. You start questioning, if I stop clapping, will I still matter? If I stop validating, will I still be valued? That fear keeps you in the cycle. But the truth is, if your worth is tied to how loud you clap for someone else, then you were never really valued in the first place. You were just being used. Validation should never be a one-way street. Real love doesn't just consume your affirmation, it reflects it back. Real connection doesn't demand constant applause. It gives space for both voices to be heard, both souls to be seen, both victories to be celebrated. If the only time someone feels whole is when you're filling them up, then they haven't learned how to draw from the well within themselves. And it is not your job to be their endless supply. You cannot keep clapping for someone else while your own hands are bleeding. You cannot keep standing in ovation when your knees are weak. You cannot keep shouting bravo when your own voice is cracking from the silence that meets you when it's your turn. At some point, you have to realize that endless applause is a trap, not a tribute. So let me tell you this. Your validation matters too. Your heart deserves encouragement. Your effort deserves recognition. Your life deserves celebration. And if the people around you cannot honor that, then it's time to step back and reclaim your stage. You don't have to be their constant audience. You don't have to play the role of cheerleader while your own victories go unnoticed. Your voice was created to do more than echo applause. It was created to speak truth, to declare worth, to honor not only others, but also yourself. And once you begin to hear your own sound again, you'll realize you never needed the endless applause you were giving away. You just needed to remember you were worthy of being celebrated too. So no more clapping until your hands hurt. No more cheering until your voice fades. No more being the stagehand in someone else's spotlight. It's time to step into your own light because you are worthy of the ovation you've been giving away. Boundaries are one of the most powerful declarations of self-respect you will ever make, but to someone who benefits from you having none, they look like betrayal. The moment you draw a line, the moment you say, this is where I end and you begin, the atmosphere shifts. Suddenly, you're no longer seen as loyal. You're accused of being difficult. You're no longer seen as loving. You're called selfish. But the truth is, boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They are fences to keep what is sacred within you safe. And anybody who interprets your safety as a threat was never invested in your well-being to begin with. Think about it. When you have no boundaries, everything is up for grabs. Your time, your energy, your peace, your identity. Anyone can take from it whenever they choose. And maybe for a while, you think that's what love looks like. That giving until you're empty proves your commitment. But over time, you realize the more you give without boundaries, the less of yourself you recognize. You start to see that love without limits doesn't build connection. It builds control. The secret expectation is that you'll never say no. That you'll always bend, always adjust, always stretch, no matter the cost. And the moment you dare to step back, The moment you decide you have the right to protect your space, the response is outrage, because boundaries expose entitlement. They shine a light on where someone's love was really just convenience. They reveal who valued you for you and who valued you for what you could give without question. But here's what you must understand. Boundaries are not acts of betrayal. They are acts of survival. They are how you tell the world, I matter too. They are how you teach people what is allowed in your space and what is not. They are how you preserve the energy to show up in love without losing yourself in the process. And if someone cannot respect that, it says more about their intentions than it ever says about your heart. Yes, it will hurt when they accuse you of changing. Yes, it will sting when they call you selfish. Yes, it will shake you when they try to guilt you back into silence. But guilt is the language of someone who benefits from your lack of boundaries. Don't confuse their discomfort with your disobedience. Just because they don't like the new standard doesn't mean you're wrong for setting it. And let's be honest, sometimes the hardest part about boundaries isn't setting them with others. It's believing you deserve them yourself. It's convincing yourself that your needs are valid, that your peace is worth protecting, that your soul is just as deserving of rest as anyone else's. We've been conditioned to think that giving without limits makes us noble, that saying no makes us unkind. But what's noble about burning yourself out? What's kind about betraying yourself just to be accepted? There is nothing holy about abandoning the life inside you just to keep somebody else comfortable. Every time you set a boundary, you reclaim a piece of yourself. Every time you say no to what drains you, you say yes to what sustains you. Every time you draw a line, you remind your spirit that it is worthy of protection. And while some may walk away because they can't handle your wholeness, the ones meant to walk with you will never see your boundaries as betrayal. They will see them as clarity. They will honor the fact that you know yourself enough to protect yourself. So don't let their accusations silence you. Don't let their guilt trips push you back into patterns that nearly broke you. Don't let their discomfort convince you that your healing is harmful. You are not betraying anyone by choosing to honor yourself. The real betrayal would be living your whole life without ever drawing a line, without ever claiming your voice, without ever standing in the truth that your boundaries are not barriers. They are bridges to freedom. So if they call your boundaries betrayal, let them. If they call your limits selfish, let them. Because at the end of the day, the only betrayal that matters is betraying yourself. And you've done enough of that already. There's a certain kind of expectation that doesn't come out loud, but you can feel it in the way they look at you, in the way they respond to you, in the way they hold you to a standard that doesn't fit your soul. It's the expectation that you won't really be yourself. You'll just be their reflection. That when they look at you, they don't want to see your individuality, your uniqueness, your light. They want to see themselves mirrored back. They want you to think how they think, feel how they feel, agree when they speak, move when they move. And the moment you show up with a different shine, the moment your reflection doesn't match their projection, it unsettles them. You start to notice it in little ways. The compliments come not when you're being you, but when you're being what they want you to be. The approval flows not when you're true to yourself, but when you shrink to fit into the shape they carved for you. And after a while, you realize their love doesn't actually cover who you are. It only covers who you are when you look like them. That's not love, that's ownership dressed up as affection. The secret expectation is that you'll give up your identity so they can feel secure in theirs. That you'll silence your difference so they never have to face their own insecurities. That you'll dim your brilliance so their shadow doesn't look so heavy. And if you're not careful, you'll start to believe that who you really are is too much, too different, too disruptive. You'll start to question whether being yourself is a burden, and little by little, you'll begin trading authenticity for approval. But what happens when you look in the mirror and realize you don't recognize yourself anymore? What happens when the reflection staring back feels like a stranger because you've been molding yourself to look like someone else's dream? That's the cost of living under this unspoken contract. You lose the sound of your own voice, the rhythm of your own heartbeat, the clarity of your own calling. Let me tell you something. Your difference is not a threat. It's your design. You were never meant to be a reflection of anyone else. You were never meant to twist and bend and break yourself just to make someone else feel bigger. Your identity is not up for negotiation, and your individuality is not an inconvenience. The very things that make you too much for them are the very things that make you perfect for your purpose. And yes, when you decide to step into that truth, it will shake the room. Because the same people who loved your reflection will struggle with your reality. The same ones who praised your compliance will resist your independence. The same ones who celebrated you when you mirrored them will accuse you when you shine on your own. That's when you'll know the reflection was never about love. It was about control. But here's the beauty. You don't have to stay in that cage. You don't have to live as someone else's echo when you were created to be a voice. You don't have to dim your flame to keep someone else from squinting. You don't have to trade your identity for their comfort. The moment you choose authenticity over approval, you step into a freedom that no mirror could ever give you. And yes, some people will leave. Some people will say you've changed. Some people will call you rebellious, selfish, disloyal. But what they really mean is you stopped being their reflection and they don't know how to love what they can't control. Don't let their discomfort convince you that your authenticity is wrong. Because the truth is, the ones who are meant to walk with you won't need you to mirror them. They'll need you to be you. They'll celebrate your difference. They'll honor your individuality. They'll clap for your shine even when it doesn't look like theirs. So stop living in the shadow of somebody else's expectation. Stop molding yourself into a reflection that was never meant to be yours. Stop betraying your own identity just to make someone else comfortable. You were not created to be their mirror. You were created to be a masterpiece. And masterpieces don't apologize for shining in their own light.